It is indeed a privilege to admire these birds from so close. And if you have sharp eyes, you might distinguish the red-tailed tropic birds from the white-tailed ones. The Phaethon rubricoda and the Phaethon lupterus are a joy to watch swirling across the blue skies of the Mauritian northern islands. In 2011, the Mauritian Wildlife Foundation attempted for the first time to lure seabirds to Îles Aigrettes, a nature reserve, in the hope that they will help fertilize the land and help the food chain by bringing insects and marine nutrients. Let's go back in time to witness how scientist Julie Cole and her team handled this attempt.
Round Island is very important in the tropics, in the Indian Ocean as a whole, and in the world. It's a very important bird island. So the species that are found there and the numbers that are found there, you wouldn't find on other islands that you'd have human disturbance. There's a lot of things that are studied on Round Island. It's one of the last remaining places for the palm forest that you find. So you've got latanias and high forb, all these bottle palms and different things that you don't find anymore in Mauritius. So it's a sanctuary for plants, it's a sanctuary for reptiles. You've got the Round Island boa, the tailfair skink, lots of other geckos there and birds. So the scientific monitoring that goes on there, we do nest monitoring for the Round Island petrel, we do nest monitoring for the red-tailed tropic bird. At the moment I'm doing nest counts and monitoring of the growth and weights for the white-tailed tropic bird, red-tailed tropic bird and wedge-tailed shearwater. They do plant monitoring. They do extensive work on all of these endemic and critically endangered plants and animals in Mauritius, because they really are becoming less and less in the mainland if they're available at all. So these nature reserves and sanctuaries we really need to preserve, and they need to stay free of human interaction, human disturbance, so that these species stay alive, basically.
In April 2011, the Fennec flew from the north to the southeast of Îles Aigrettes. On board, 23 shearwaters, 7 white-tailed and 6 red-tailed tropic birds. It is thought that this translocation would benefit reptiles and the whole ecosystem of Îles Aigrettes.
This is the first proper year of the project, and this is a nice big translocation by helicopter. So we've got 20 birds off today, which is the most we've ever had on Îles Aigrettes. We've already got 23 birds here. So yeah, we're brimming 43 birds of 3 different species. We've got the white-tailed tropic bird, the red-tailed tropic bird and the wedge-tailed shearwater. Seabirds are very good indicators of conditions offshore, like how many fish are in the sea for a start. Also here on Îles Aigrettes, the soil quality, it's a very thin soil on the island, and we've got lots of birds that eat a lot of insects here. The seabirds have been shown, when they're found on islands, they really improve the whole island. They make a lot more insects. They bring all sorts of things like guano from their bird droppings, from eggs that haven't hatched, and that brings a lot of insects, and different things can feed on that. So these are species that are quite common, but they'll support all of the birds that are critically endangered here in Mauritius and here on Îles Aigrettes. So we're hoping that they'll just improve soil quality and improve the insects available for all the other animals, the reptiles and the birds here.
The adult white-tailed tropic bird catches fish by diving to the sea from a great height. This little fellow is far from ready for this.
Are you sure they will make it here? They will adapt on this island?
They've already been shown that they've been on this island before. So we've had the wedge-tailed shearwater and the white-tailed tropic birds here before there were rats and cats. Then when the rats and cats got brought on, they decimated a lot of the seabirds. So we know that they've been here before. Also, the wedge-tailed shearwater are already found on Île Fouquet, just very close to here. And you'll find the white-tailed tropic birds all around Mauritius. They'll be in the lower gorges, and so that they're pretty adaptable birds. And we hope that they'll come back and they'll find that it's a very good place to nest. There's certainly enough shade and they're really close to the sea. So it's a nice island for them to go off from. You've got the trade winds that come across the island, so it's nice for them to take off from here. And they're very important to have sort of around Mauritius and to look after them. So.
Now, what can you tell us about, for example, this little fellow here? What will be his next few days and what are you going to do with them?
Right. Now, with these guys, he's actually been on Aigrettes for about 2 weeks. We collected him from Round Island. We've been feeding him every day. They feed on squid or octopus or some of the flying fish or sardines. So we weigh them every morning, feed them every day, and then we'll take lots of measurements, like their wing measurements, their beak measurements, so that we can see how they're growing, how quickly they're growing. And then this guy is getting ready to fly off. He's nearly to fledging point. His feathers have all come out ready. So we'd expect in the next few days for him to come out of the box and he'll just fly off. Hopefully he'll start hunting himself. They just learn themselves. They have an innate drive just to go and hunt and dive into the water after fish. And so yeah. Oh. So yeah, he'll be flying off soon, but they're very curious, the whitetails. Yeah, he's been out of his box a couple of times already, and yeah, we expect him to fledge very, very soon.
It will take years to know if the project's a success. Mm-hmm. Now, what gives you hope that it's going to work?
Well, there's been other projects around the world that have done translocations, not with these species, but with very similar species like different shearwaters, and they've seen some birds coming back and breeding. So along with that, and the fact that we're giving them a lot of good fish, so we hope that that's got them to a nice weight that will carry them across that first year while they're learning how to hunt, and hopefully in sort of 4 or 5 years they'll come back and start breeding here. You'll see with these seabirds, they're very different to the shearwaters in that they're really built for being in the air.
Yeah.
So their feet are very, very far back. They're not very good at walking. They're built for just flying about. So when they do walk, they look really, really
clumsy.
awkward. Yeah. So if he comes out the box, he'll probably fall over a bit and sort of wander around. But as soon as they're in the air, they're the most elegant, beautiful birds. Yeah. They're the ones with the big, long white tails that you would have seen. And they do all these sort of acrobatics around each other in the air. It's amazing. So you can see just at the back of his tail, these 2 long ones that are sort of poking out the middle of his crossed wings. Yeah. So they'll just get longer and longer, and they'll start to be these really big, long ventral tail feathers.
These birds, they look quite different from the other ones. So why do you need to put other kind of boxes for them to be kept here? Okay,
these are wedge-tailed shearwaters. And yeah, they are quite different. First of all, they're a communal bird. They like living in groups. So on Round Island, you'll have big, big colonies of them all together, whereas the white-tailed tropic birds live on their own. And these are actually burrowing birds. So they will burrow deep into the undergrowth and make burrows. And that's why we're trying out these new pipes for them. So they're nice and long and they give that burrow environment for them. But these, we want them here on Île Aigrettes because of the fact they're communal. We hope that they'll try to, all their calls and things will tempt other birds to come and join them. We have some shearwaters nesting on Île Fouquet, only a very small population. So hopefully having a population here as well will boost the seabird numbers here in the south of Mauritius.
But you can't mix them with the payanku or others. They have to be kept aside?
No, they don't have to be kept separately. In 2009, when we done a trial release, we did keep them together. They were in separate boxes, but in the same area. But we found that these birds wander a lot more. They have bigger feet, and they can walk very easily and even climb a little bit, not up trees, but they can climb just over rocks. And we found that they were getting lost in the forest there. So just here, this area is a bit flatter, a bit less treacherous, so we think they'll be a bit safer here if they do wander. So that's the only reason they're here, and it makes it easier for us to check them. The white-tailed tropic birds and red-tailed tropic birds come out in the day. They're diurnal birds, but these are nocturnal, so they'll be more active during the night. So it means it's quite near the field station, and we can just check them and do night watches and see what their behaviour is at night. The wedge-tailed shearwaters, they'll make a lot of noises. They're very communal. They'll nest in big colonies. They'll come to the island at dusk. They'll stay on overnight, making a whole racket of noise on Round Island, and then they leave at dawn. There's behaviours would mainly be sort of digging the burrows. They only come onto Round Island really to mate. So they'll come just before breeding season. They'll find their mate. Then they'll stay on Round Island, produce the egg, nest for about sort of 50-60 days on the egg, and then the young actually stay on for about 90 to 110 days, so they have quite a long growing period. We've collected them between 70 to 90 days. We hope they'll stay here for 2 to 3 weeks, perhaps even up to a month. We'll feed them every day, and then they'll go off the same as they do on Round Island, we hope. Fledge.
Where do they go? I mean, when they don't stay on the island?
When they don't stay on the island, they go out to sea. We're not entirely sure exactly where our population from Round Island goes, but the seabirds can cover really big distances in search of food. These shearwaters will actually stay communal. They'll go on rafts on the sea together. So you'll quite often see the fishermen may see stacks of birds just in a little area, but usually they just sort of fly around. They'll rest on the sea. They'll only come onto Round Island really around breeding. Do you need me to write? $83.3. Yep. Yeah, I'll come round and I'll just talk through. Oh, okay. Yeah. And the bag was 65. So I'm just going to keep his head in the bag and take the measurements here. So we take the culmen with the beak to tip from the skin and the feathers to the end. And I just take 3 measurements. Okay. Then we take the gape to tip. So all the way back along the beak to where the Now the shearwaters are tube noses, so we have to be very careful not to sort of block their nostrils if we're doing anything on their beaks or around their beaks. Just measure their skull. So that's 82.4. And then we just put him back into the bag again. And if they're out, they're always trying to sort of get away. Yeah, if you keep them just in the bag. They usually stay quite calm. He's just begging for food the whole time. And this is a wing rule that we use, and you always do the measurements down the right side of the body. So we just take his wing out. We just put and you can only do the morphometrics at certain times because you don't want to do it when they've got food in their bellies. So the wing is 271. 271. And we just repeat back to each other, just because here it's a bit easier, but especially when you're working with different cultures, different languages, and also sometimes in incremental weather. So you've got wind and rain and it's hard to hear, so you just repeat. I repeat to her, she repeats back, and it means that you're more likely to get a good record. We also measure how much feather is out of the pin, and that just tells us how close they are to fledging. So this is the pin here. Might have to go on another one soon.
Okay.
Right, so that's 116.4. There are. This is just. Yeah. There's. No, not for every part, but usually you'd have a much smaller ruler that you measure the tail with. And I just. But the wing rule is really the only one that you have that's specifically designed. So that's 95. And you always do all the measurements in millimetres, so that's just a centimetre rule for that. Now the wing measurement that I've done, the long one with the wing rule, is a very good one for their growth. So we can tell how old they are from that when we measure it along a chart from ones that we know the ages of. So this is the middle toe that I do just to the skin of the claw, and that's 53.3. Yeah, this is a methodology that's used, hopefully pretty standardised all around the world. You get, so when you have measurements taken, you know that they can be compared and that other people can do the same measurements. I'll just put this back. Okay. So each of the beak ones, there's diagrams in some bird handbooks that will show you exactly what to measure. Like the right tarsus is obviously a bone, it's the leg bone, so that has quite a steady growth. The beaks and tails and things like that can all grow at very different rates, but the bone measurements, you know, it can't get smaller for a start. You can't get bits cut off of it, whereas you can get bits of the end of the tail worn off. So they're very good for actually getting growth curves and seeing how the bird is growing over time. And then we can compare those that we have here with ones that we're taking in the wild to make sure that the food we're giving them is enough and that they're growing at a similar rate, if not hopefully better than they are in the wild. Yeah. So for me on Round Island, I'll take nest data basically, rather than taking sort of, you know, where they're found. The nests, I'll be like, what direction does it face? Is it southwest, northwest? What's the substrate? Will it be leaf litter, rock, gravel, soil? Is it a burrow? Is it a rock ledge? Is it a cavern? It's all those sort of things. Does it have a sky view? Is it very enclosed? Different things like that.
These birds were taken from Round Island when they were fledging. When they will be ready, they will fly away for 3 to 4 years before coming back to where they flew first. They always come back where they took off first. But till then, it's time to feed the birds. Fish an octopus will provide a rich source of protein.
Yeah, so we'll just feed this last one here, Jay, and then open these boxes up. Come on, buddy. Just tap.
No.
That's it. Ooh. I'm trying to bring him out. Yeah, usually we give them a bit bigger feed, but because we've morphed them and wrung them, they've been through quite a few stressful days. I mean, you wouldn't tell it to look at them, but yeah, so we just give them a little feed, and then from tomorrow we'll give them a nice big feed. But this was the first time his box was open. He's been bursting to get out of that box, so, and this one is too, I think. So I might just open this one now, actually. So we have to wait until they have identification rings on them. Oh, yeah, he's coming now. Yeah, flexor muscles. Usually, you know, they've been in the wild the whole time. They've not been used to being in boxes at all, so. Hopefully they won't fight. We may have to move a few of the boxes a bit further apart. He's off somewhere. I couldn't leave him in the boxes any longer though, like that. He's like, I'm off for a wander. That's it. That's it, yeah. Too much going on, I think. It's all right, Ash, I've clipped it. Yeah, I'll probably get my whole hand down there. Yeah, they're just you could put your whole hand in their mouth, it's amazing. I mean, this is quite small fish and stuff that we're giving them at the moment.
Might be the first time we'll shoot
This is the last bit.
Well, this is the first time, as far as I know, they've been translocated here, and we're gonna just get him out and crop feed him. Right, so this one has regurgitated his food for a couple of days. So we just want to make sure that he's got all the nutrients and rehydration that he needs after the translocation. Some of them can react to the stress of the translocation a little bit more than the others. And we just want to make sure that he's going to be nice and healthy through. So he's had some fish and kept it down, some octopus, but we're just going to give him this. It's like a critical care formula. It has vitamins, some minerals and an appetite booster, and also a bit of water so he's rehydrated. We do this for all the birds when they first come off from the helicopter. They're left to settle in the boxes for just a few hours, and then they're given a little bit of critical care to rehydrate them. Okay, so we just push the actual crop, the tube, just down into the gullet, the esophagus. So this one is a little bit younger, so perhaps that's why. But we have to be very gentle. We just open the mouth. He's just been a bit of a reluctant feeder. And then we push this down into the throat. Oh, it's all right, mate. You just make sure it's right down into the tummy. So that's his noise. He's just trying to sort of regurgitate the tube. So we just go really nice and slowly. You can see he's actually swallowing. We make sure that we're looking in the mouth the whole time, just to make sure it's not coming up into his airway, because that can be really bad if you get any sort of liquid into the lungs. and then we'll just put him back and leave him there. So when he regurgitates the food, obviously he's losing the moisture from it as well. These don't take any water. They just get all of the moisture and water that they need from the food from the sea. So if they're not getting that food, they're not getting the water either. So with 2 days in a row of him not actually taking the food, we just wanted to make sure that he's rehydrated. Okay, his box can stay open, yeah. So we're going to open these boxes as well, just because earlier on they were all banded with rings. These guys won't come out like the red tails do. They're a lot more sedentary in the nest boxes and in the nest sites back on Round Island. The red tails have more of a tendency to come out and wander around and take in their surroundings. These guys stay very much in their boxes. So we've got a couple more of these to feed and a couple more to just measure before we open their boxes, and then we're done for the day with these guys. Well, there's a lot that we don't know about seabirds. We don't know where the fledglings go when they fly off. They're missing for 2 to 3 to 4 years, and no one really knows exactly where they go. They know they go out to sea, but where? You know, do they stop on any islands? Do they just stay on the sea? There's a lot we don't know just about their breeding, like how often can they breed and do they breed? You know, we know that some are annual, but do they come every year? Do they come every second year? The growth rates, the feeding, the amount of food that they get each time, just basic biology questions are being answered and being studied now, but the questions are still out there. And when you find out one thing, it opens up another 10 questions to find out about them. So all of these birds, mainly a lot of seabirds, are quite understudied, especially in the Indian Ocean. That's becoming a lot better now. We're getting a lot more scientific studies going with all these birds, not only here in Mauritius, but in the Seychelles and Reunion also. But we're getting lots of really good data and long data that we're collecting every month, year on year, which will be very, very important in years to come.
The Mauritian Wildlife Foundation has worked since 2011 for the reintroduction of seabirds on Îles Aigrettes. In 2021, life-size dummies and call playbacks were used to entice seabirds to come closer and eventually establish themselves around the island. There is still hope that seabirds will feel at home in a near future.